everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar. Sincerest apologies for our delay coming live on YouTube. Very much technical issues on my end, so I take full responsibility for our 15-minute delay. If you're listening on podcast, you won't have noticed at all anyway. So welcome if you're watching live this evening, and if you're listening to the podcast subsequently as well. Tuning in with Mark and Peter, as ever, gents. How are we doing this evening?
Yeah, not bad at all. Just got back from Oktoberfest yesterday, so feeling it a little bit. It's been a pretty tough day to get through today, but yeah, really happy. Another brilliant weekend of Bundesliga football. So what more can you want?
Yeah, doing well myself. I took a quick jet across the pond during the international break. Had some things to take care of stateside, but shook off the jet lag just in time to catch a fabulous Friday night fixture, and German football is back. So looking forward to talking about it, as always, with you, gentlemen.
Absolutely, yeah. The international break feels like a long time ago now, thankfully, as well. It's in the past, and we've had, 9 excellent games of Bundesliga football to enjoy this weekend. We'll be tuning into the featured four as per usual, going through the best of the rest and finishing off with a bit of Kiosk Club with Peter. Sit back and enjoy as we review the weekend's action. Picking 4 games from all 9 this weekend again has been so taxing. Literally, all 9 could have made an appearance. Maybe the 1-1 draw in Frankfurt, not so much, but either way around, excellent games. Bundesliga producing as the world's most entertaining league, as per usual. I think this only competition is the site of Bundesliga. So generally speaking, for drama. So we're going to start off our countdown with our 4th place game. So Mark, if you want to bring that up on screen, and we'll get kick-started with what was a very topsy-turvy match in Freiburg, in which Dortmund were able to take the lead through a powerful Mats Hummels header. And just as you think they're heading into half-time with a good lead, Mark, and we didn't see that coming. I know you were busy with Oktoberfest, but I think they were the few messages that we exchanged over the weekend. Dortmund not getting themselves into the break at 2-1, and we were kind of already damning them to defeat. A couple of important headers to get Freiburg then up 2-1 at half time. Shenzo Grifo being subbed into the match due to injury for Gregorisic, ended up being the as per usual the assist provider for Freiburg to get them back into the game. Maybe undeservedly. It's hard to really say what Freiburg are really producing right now. But then second half, Mark, I guess we're saying that this match was maybe decided, or at least a large proportion of it was decided on a red card that was upgraded from a yellow card, and we think rightfully so in the end.
Yeah, I think it was a funny match, this one, to be honest. It really was a funny match. Quite a few of the goals were quite scrappy. Some of the defending from Freiburg has been quite worrying recently, to be honest. I think I mentioned to you before kickoff, before that we went on air today, Rory, that it's not typical for Freiburg, especially at the Europa Park Stadion, to give goals away so cheaply like that. Especially the 2 Hummels goals actually were very, very cheap ones. Yeah, I think that the goal that eventually won it was just a long ball into the box, and it was Schlotterbeck kind of got himself in between, and then somehow it wasn't cleared, and basically Hummels just he did well actually to get his foot on the ball, but I'm pretty sure that Freiburg would be disappointed to lose the game. In truth, I think, the red card was big, but it was definitely a correct decision from Höfler. Yeah, I think actually this was a really good weekend for refereeing decisions, in my opinion, overall. I thought, last week we criticised a few refereeing decisions, but this weekend I felt as though this was a very good decision and good VAR work as well, because it was clearly should have been upgraded to the red card that Höfler got. Whether that was too influential in the result, I wouldn't say so, because, it was already 80 minutes or so on the clock by the time that happened, 82 minutes to be precise. So, there wasn't long for Freiburg to hold out But yeah, I just felt as though it was a really weak goal to concede from them, that third goal. For Dortmund, they'll be happy to get over the line. I didn't feel as though they played amazingly well. I think there were a few players that deserve credit. Hummels, of course, I think this is the 16th season in a row that he's scored incredible numbers. Like, he's just a machine with the head, isn't he? And he just always manages to get, 4 or 5 goals a season, regardless of who he's playing for. Again, credit to that man, Daniel Marlin, as well. He scored a really good individual goal for the 2-2. If he didn't get that, at that point, Freiburg were in the ascendancy as well. They were looking the better side at that point. They missed a few chances at 2-2 as well. I just feel as though this was a kind of game that could have gone either way, in my opinion. There were mistakes from both sides, quality play from both sides too. The Hurler goal was a really nice header as well from the Grifo free kick, the equaliser. And, it was a really exciting match. As I would say, I think Marlon deserves a lot of credit for what he's serving up on the pitch at the moment. The back end of last season, he was superb, and he started this season really, really well too. And I did enjoy his goal. I just think it's great to see a player that had so many hard times in a Dortmund shirt, and he's really, really kind of come good now. I think overall it's about 10 goals in 15 games overall, from the beginning of this season and the end of last season. It's just great statistics for him, the wide forward. And yeah, obviously Dortmund got over the line. They're on 8 points from 4 games. I don't think they've really played amazingly well this season so far, but at the end of the day, they're only 2 points off the top of the league now as a result of other results this weekend. And it's far from the kind of, crisis that some people are saying. For me, it's far from a crisis. They just need to get I think Sabitzer for me was a little bit better in this game. Actually, he had some good moments too. Probably still needs to up it a level if he wants to get anywhere near what they need in that midfield. But I would say it was a case of getting over the line for Dortmund in this game. And 8 points from 4 games is not a terrible return at the end of the day.
Yeah, agreed. I get what you mean about the crisis thing. I think we or the press and pundits that be very quick to put pressure on people, but Dortmund haven't started impressively. That's far from the case. But as you say, Mark, very correctly, they're not far out of it at all. I think this weekend was certainly a really big moment for them. 2-1 down at halftime. Then you're looking at a very poor return from 4 matches, aren't you? But the turnaround is definitely really important. One player that obviously Mark's given credit to, Peter, is Daniel Marlin, but another player from a Dortmund perspective that's come in for a little bit of stick so far this season is Adeyemi. Quite a lot of people have been voicing their concerns with his performances so far. And did you pick anything out from Adeyemi or players from a Dortmund perspective that maybe haven't shone so far and in this game despite the win?
I think it's important that, and we indeed noted this on last week's pod or the week before last's pod, that this talk of a Dortmund crisis is very much overblown. This is obviously a team that has to adjust to Jude Bellingham's absence, and Terzic has a system to get together. In terms of Adeyemi, I liked what he was trying in terms of his flank rotations. I think he was trying left, right, on the half left and on the half right. He was really trying to hit all 4 attacking lanes on various Dortmund charges. He ended up not having such a successful game, and that was one of the reasons why he was pulled, though he did do better in the second half. On a tactical level, this match was so subjectively ridiculous. I watched it on an overhead, and then I was reading a lot of different press reviews about what people thought the basic formation and constellation was. And then, of course, I picked up all the papers this morning, and everybody is in disagreement as to what kind of system Terzic is actually running at this point. Some people say it's a 3-5-2. Some people say it's a 4-2-3-1 split stagger. This is all because Kahn is a flexible player. The newly anointed captain is a flexible player. He's drifting back at times. He's other times trying to work a synchronization thing with Sabitzer. And he hasn't really played all that great of a match since he's gotten the captain's armband, although I'm sure that he'll recover at some point. I think the most interesting facet of this match on a tactical level was the fact that everybody seems to be in agreement that there was a 4-4-2 reformat late. and Niklas Füllkrug played alongside Daniel Malen being the second striker in the 4-4-2. And I think this is a fabulous idea. I think that with all due credit to Sebastian Haller, I think that he's gotten off to a rather poor start this campaign. They have Füllkrug while he's healthy, and Malen can work as a regular striker. I think that'd be a fantastic idea with Brandt and Adeyemi, perhaps Gio Reyna when he gets healthy, replacing Adeyemi. Of course, Gio that's a whole different can of worms we don't necessarily need to open. But a two-striker set with Malen and Füllkrug may help Dortmund to some success in future fixtures. Still a very, very good team. And thank you for bringing up Mats Hummels' record, the 16th consecutive seasons now that he's scored a Bundesliga goal. He's in very, very good company with that. Marco Reus, another German footballing legend, came off the bench to score in this one. And I wouldn't say that there's anybody on Dortmund who has gotten off to a particularly poor start besides Haller, who hasn't gotten the production numbers yet, and Bensebaini, who seems to be a little bit quiet. But I have faith in most of the rest of the squad. I think that they'll, and particularly in Emre Can and Marcel Sabitzer, I think that they're really going to get their midfield movements coordinated well in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just touch on Freiburg as well before we move on. Not to grill them or to lambast them, but clearly from a defensive point of view, Mark, you picked it out. Last season they were, well, they've been known for being a good defensive unit for the last few seasons, and something seems to be amiss right now. Do we just put it down to early season rustiness, just not quite hitting their straps, perhaps a bit more pressure, maybe up top, because of the fact that I think one thing that we alluded to at the start of the season was, do they have that goal scorer who's going to get them loads of goals? And naturally they signed Junior Adumu, who's not really featured so far, well, mainly due to injury, I believe, but he was on the bench at the weekend, and hopefully he can settle in and start to, populate the goal scorer sheet a little bit. But Mark, I'll throw this to you. Any real concern for Freiburg, or are we just saying that their levels might drop off a little bit this season, and we're maybe just realistically going to see them in and around the 8th to 10th bracket rather than that 4th, 5th, 6th sort of bracket this season?
Yeah, I think we've got to be realistic surrounding Freiburg. At the end of the day, they've had two of their best seasons in their history. That's the level we're talking about under Christian Streich, the last two seasons. DFB Pokal final, DFB Pokal semi-final, 5th and 6th place finishes. The numbers are just ridiculous, really. And Freiburg, in a way, they don't really have a right to be finishing that highly. There's a lot of clubs with much bigger budgets, much more fashionable clubs than them in the Bundesliga. And we can't expect them every single year to be, top 5, top 6. And I think, in my opinion, that the squad does look a little bit weaker this year. Probably the loss of Flecken was big as well. I think me and Peter discussed it on our trip to Kaiserslautern. I think obviously him going to Brentford, and then rookie goalkeeper Atabulo. I think he will be a good goalkeeper, but in my opinion, it takes a goalkeeper 2 or 3 seasons to learn the trade at the highest level. And I think that he's not been absolutely terrible so far, but you can clearly see the numbers of goals that they've been conceding has gone through the roof compared to the last 2 or 3 seasons before. So I think, he's only made a couple of errors in that time, but, you've got to remember a goalkeeper's job is also to command the defense, to kind of be a leader at the back. And he's not really got those skills yet, in my opinion. And that could have been one of the problems. I think the other problem is a lack of form. The likes of Ginter hasn't really kicked on this season so far. He was amazing last season. And for me, he's not been that good so far. He's the leader at the back. They've kind of chopped and changed between a back 3 and a back 4. Still Delia played a few games. He didn't really do it. He was on the bench for this match. I just think it's a case of, first of all, Atabulo has got to get used to his position a bit more. And he might end up having quite a poor season this year. I think it's possible because, he's learning the trade, and we can't really blame him too much for that. But I think it is highly possible that Freiburg will drop down towards, 10th, 11th potentially. But I don't see them dropping any further down than that this season for me.
No, very true.
I'll say 2 things as quickly as I can. Atabolo is having a little bit of trouble organizing his lads on set piece plays. And as all footballers know, I mean, I know I look to the keeper to help guide me and help, when I'm setting up in the wall and things like this. I need him. They took a huge risk going with a rookie keeper, and of course, we're all rooting for him. I also wanted to mention Christian Streich's post-match press conference, which I was covering and found somewhat disturbing. I don't really think I've ever seen Christian Streich. I mean, he said this is going to be a hard season. They have a very, very hard league schedule coming up. They have Bayern, they have Eintracht, they have Leverkusen and all of this stuff in the next month. And then, of course, they've got the Europa League schedule. It's a tough group. It's very demanding.
Yeah.
Streich, I've never seen him so pessimistic, so tired, so exhausted looking. He seemed to be effectively conceding that his club was going to regress this season. And for the first time, and I can recall, I didn't see any enthusiasm for him. It almost seemed to him like he felt like he had really reached the peak of what he can accomplish with this club.
Yeah.
Of course, where does he go now? I mean, that's his club, that's his heart. Had they released Hansi Flick in the summer, he would have made an excellent Bundestrainer, but it's not the time for that, of course.
Right.
So I mean, Streich seems to be he's conceding it. I mean, they miss Christian Günther, who's out injured. That doesn't help the defensive line. Sedilja's been out of form. Ginter's been out of form since he's been dropped for the national side. Philipp Lienhardt, as far as I can tell, is trying to play left-footed. I don't know what he's doing. He's doing something really weird, but his marking was directly responsible for a couple of the goals there. So you got problems all up and through there. But we love this club, so we're hoping
we do.
We love Atabolo. I mean, of course we're rooting for the kid. Of course we want him to.
Well, there's always Flo Muller. Interesting thoughts on Freiburg. Have they hit their Everest? I think we will see regression from them this season, but naturally, like you said, Mark, the seasons and performances that they've put in for us to enjoy have been spectacular, and I'm sure they'll come good. Again, right then, let's move on. Third place on our list. Mark, if you can do the honors so I can remember which order I put these in. Lovely. Yeah, Darmstadt 3, Borussia Mönchengladbach 3. Bonkers game, really, on Sunday afternoon for everyone to enjoy. The goal fest that was Sunday. If you got to sit back and enjoy both games, you were thoroughly treated to brilliant matches in their own rights. And well, Peter, Darmstadt caught Gladbach cold, I think is fair to say, early on, getting out into the lead. Melem getting through on goal and, doing what he did previously to get another goal, impressively finished and making it 1-0. Maglica getting on the end of a good header, really powerful and assertive. Again, just snoozing effectively from Gladbach, really not at the races. And the third goal, of course, came. But as we all know with football, and we've all seen so far from Darmstadt, it doesn't necessarily matter how quickly you get ahead. It's about seeing it out for a full 90 minutes. And unfortunately, we will have to refer to, again, a red card definitely impacting the outcome of this result, I think it's fair to say. Gladbach still didn't do themselves any favours by missing the penalty. Shivan Shara missing, great save, good save from Schuen in net. But then eventually they got themselves going, and you kind of felt, as soon as they got that first one, it felt like the ball was just being sucked into the Darmstadt net. And what was basically an onslaught of crosses, I felt, particularly in the second half, Peter. Numerous chances of which, Neuhaus was able to pounce and get the second goal. Then there's a huge slice of luck for Javan Chada, in terms of the setup of his goal, he tries to flick it between his legs and gets a very fortunate 1-2 with it might have been, was it Fabian Holland who it came off. Falls perfectly in the strike afterwards. You have to give the man credit. It's a hell of a hit to make it 3-3. And then everyone's on tender hooks. I mean, it could have been 4-5 free to Gladbach by the end of it. It really was kind of, squeaky bum time for Darmstadt, but they get themselves an important point. It's not yet that big W though, Peter. What did you make of this pretty crazy affair?
Oh, good God. Well, I hope everybody, the highlights are very much worth your time if you have time for nothing else. I felt incredibly sorry for the minute-by-minute writers here because there were so many scoring chances. I think Darmstadt could have been up 5 or 6-0 before the half. And I mean, my favorite moment of the match, which you already mentioned, yes, what a cheeky little back heel from Van Kara, who missed the penalty. It was a soft penalty, he came on there. So he gets it back. And that was, in your own words, I couldn't describe it any better, one hell of a hit. This was another match in which all of the press sources that I was reading were in total disagreement about what Gladbach's second half tactics were. To me, it looked like a 4-3-3 with Van Kara sort of operating as a false nine, the newly acquired American striker Jordan on the left there, and then Frank van der Raat is the right part of the attacking trident. Surprisingly enough, I think the Gladbach midfield worked very well with Rocco Reitz and Florian Neuhaus, a couple of young Germans, and Julian Weigel was there too. He played a much stronger second half. So this little German midfield access, 3 guys that would be eager to get on the German national team. Not that that's particularly difficult at this point, but they that could really show us something in the weeks to come. When it comes to Darmstadt, what can you say? I mean, that was Melhem. That was a really brilliant technical finish that he had there on the first goal. I think that Maglika's emphatic finish there and off of Kemper's cross was also very strong. I mean, they Skarka, the new acquisition, who's actually returning, just like Luca Pfeiffer, your boy, to Darmstadt. I mean, he hit the post, I think, shortly before he finished up the 3-0 there. So you really thought that they deserved this win, but they just fell apart defensively. I think the player, since Mark, I'll turn it over to Mark with a Zweite Bundesliga question here, because he's obviously a little bit more in tune with the Zweite Bundesliga. When did Klaus Giasula stop wearing the helmet? I saw Klaus Giasula running that back line, and I remember him from his Paderborn days in the top flight. When did he stop wearing the helmet? Or have I got the players mixed up?
No, I'm pretty sure I saw them live last year, Darmstadt, and I'm pretty sure he was wearing the helmet then as well. So I don't know whether something's cleared up. I think he got a pretty serious injury a few years ago, didn't he? And I think, but I don't know. I would imagine it's only this season, because he was definitely still wearing it last season, as far as I know. But yeah, I mean, I think it was such a strange match. And to be honest, Darmstadt really showed a lot of quality in that first half, I got to say. I think Melhem looks like a player that we might be talking about quite a bit this season. As you say, a really, really well-taken finish there. Like the assist was such a high ball. It was like literally coming out of the sky, that one. And he took a beautiful touch just enough ahead of him, just so he could finish past the deputizing Nicolas in the Gladbach net. But to be honest, for me, the deciding moment in this game, if Gladbach could have scored that chance to make it 3-1, I think Darmstadt would have won the game, ironically, because that would have meant that the red card wouldn't have stood. It would have been 3-1. And then basically, I think that Darmstadt would probably have hung on and won the game. But I just think they fell apart at the 3-1, basically, for me. I just think they completely fell apart. And in the end, it's probably a good point for them. But from a Gladbach perspective, I mean, why was Van Chara not starting from the off there? That surprised me a little bit. Was there an injury or something there as well? Or?
It was. I was livid at that, because I had no idea why he was going with Jordan in a 4-2-3-1 in the start, but I read today that there was an injury.
Yeah,
a slight injury.
That makes more sense. And because I actually think Fanchara, from what I've seen, he's a little bit raw, to be honest. And he's not always perfect, but he's definitely a player in there. He can definitely hit a football really well, can't he? As we saw with the 3-3. We also saw that at Augsburg a couple of weeks ago, and he scored a really good goal there as well. But I just think for Gladbach and Sioane, it's just about kind of getting a squad, a roster that, an 11 out of this roster that can play for each other, because they're doing good things in moments, but they don't look good enough to win games at the moment. They're playing 45 minutes well and then just falling away. Either they're playing a bad first half and then a good second half. But I think, obviously, I tipped them to struggle. I was pretty convinced that they'd struggle this season. And at the moment, I'm still more on the air that they won't win that many games of football if they carry on the way they're going. Because, as you say, I think there's a decent squad of players there, but it's just a strange-looking squad for me. There seems to be maybe a bit of a lack of balance in there. It's just, who are they going to go for the number 9? Are they going to stick Jordan alongside Fanchara when Fanchara's fit? Maybe that'd lead to a lack of balance, because neither of them are the kind of players that are going to track back and do any defensive work. So, I think in my opinion, Weigl is kind of the key player in this squad. He's meant to be the balance in the squad, and I need to see him playing better on a consistent basis, because as Peter said, he played well in the second half, but in the first half, he just went AWOL, basically. So they need him to be playing well. Player, I'm starting to think he's probably done in the Bundesliga, to be honest with you. He's not been good for a long time, really, now in a Gladbach shirt. And he looked pretty woeful in that first half and just a little bit beleaguered, in truth. So, I'm not sure how much we're going to see of him for the rest of the season. The likes of Ngumu and Honorat are very inconsistent as well. So, I think the season could go one or two ways for Gladbach, really. Yeah, they could still go on to be a top half side. There's enough quality in that squad for them to do it. But at the same time, they could be lower mid-table again like last season. So it's a little bit difficult to tell where it's going to go. As for Darmstadt, point on the board, they're off the bottom as well. Mainz are now propping up the table ahead of week 5 next week. And, that made me think that they're a side that could potentially win a few games in the Bundesliga. After the first 3 matches, I was worried they were going to get any wins on the board, to be honest. But that made me think, they should have won that game. Just a lack of know-how, a lack of kind of, mentality, maybe a bit of belief led to them drawing, but it's still a point on the board against a side that were expected to beat them. So it's not a bad day in the end for them.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, I'm slightly concerned about certain scars being open for the entire season with this going into a lead and not being able to see it out. Obviously, we're 4 games in, so it's quite hard to say this is a trend or a pattern just yet. But, that belief is what gets you over the line ultimately, and that know-how. Darmstadt don't have the Bundesliga know-how at this level right now. So it's a harsh lesson that they've learned already a few times. And Gladbach, as you say, will continue to entertain. Well, we've had a 4-4 and a 3-3 from them already. They did their standard effort against Bayern. Like you say, it's a bit of a mishmash of players right now. But there is raw talent in there, like you say, with Fanchara. Ngumu can definitely do stuff going forwards. And Honorat does look like a player. So I think they'll score goals, but equally we saw in that first half that they can certainly sleep on the job and concede a fair few as well. The enigma that is Gladbach this season, we'll enjoy watching them this season, though, that is for sure. Moving on to the second game of our featured 4, Heidenheim History Boys. 4-2 against Werder. Their first ever Bundesliga win was met with great celebrations at the end of the game. It was really lovely to see on my TV screen. The celebrations, absolutely fantastic. They were made to work for it in a sense that the game went to 2-2, chaps. I'll come to you, Peter, first on this one. Looked like they were heading for victory after going 2-0 up. Obviously, the penalty that came from Kleindienst, and then obviously Dinci getting the first of 2 goals against his employers, really kind of rubbing in the salt into the wound there. But then, half-time, quick break, the penalty gets them back into the game. just about, well, he didn't convert it, did he? He hit it at the goalkeeper. And to be fair, he's composed enough to take his time with the header rather than charging at it. He does take his time to put it in the back of the net relatively well. And then one of the few bright sparks for Werder was Mitchell Weiser. He got himself a nice goal, a really well-headed goal. And you're probably thinking at that point, Peter, despite the fact that Werder hadn't really played in the match, that maybe the momentum and their experience would maybe take them over the line to push for their third goal and ultimately the winner. But Heidenheim composed themselves and got themselves straight back into the lead and then saw the game out with a fantastic fourth. And just amazing from the new boys. I thought it was a fantastically played match in the end.
Yeah, it was an interesting Sunday. It was a Sunday in which I thought that we were back in round one for a second there. We had a high-scoring draw involving Gladbach. And then in Heidenheim, actually that was round two that they blew the lead. They were 2-0 up against Hoffenheim. I think that went into the 88th minute. And they blew it. So I was thinking deja vu, they're going to do it again. But they kept their composure, they kept their calm, and they were able to get that historic win. That was also, of course, Frank Schmidt passes the former Freiburg manager, Volker Finke, as the man in charge of a club for the longest time with that fixture. It was an excellent match. It was a fun match. Congratulations to Eren Dinci. He has gone ahead and doubled his total of Bundesliga goals in a single afternoon. I remember watching him a few years back when he was playing for Florian Kohfeld's Werder Bremen. Nobody who played for Florian Kohfeld's Werder Bremen were any good. But kudos to the young man. He's really this could be something special for him. Jan Nicholas Besta, who was also a former Bremen player, had an excellent match, scoring a goal and providing the assist on Dinci's second. That was an excellent assist. He is a player that I think a lot of Germans are becoming enamored with. I know that Rune likes him. I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's that Nordic facial hair thing. He kind of looks like, he's a lumberjack and he's okay. Is what he is. But it was, kudos to Heidenheim for shaking it off and for coming back. They were tactically well set up once again, this time in a 4-4-2 with Toyakov pairing alongside Maloney. And, with Bremen, Duk had a slight injury. I think Rafael Santos Borre was jet-lagged. So we still have not seen the best of Bremen. I found Mark's tip that Heidenheim were going to win. I disagreed with that. I thought that Bremen would take it. But I think, as I said on the last pod, that once we get Borre into the starting 11, once we get Deman in place of Jung, I think that Bremen will be able to turn things around. And I mean, we need to mention, of course, that Mitchell Weiser never gave up, had a fantastic match, scored a goal himself. I really hope they sign him to a contract extension. And I hope he plays for Algeria as well. I'd like to see that. That'd be really cool. Mark was the man who tipped it on the prediction show. So Mark can tell us, why he thought that way and how the prediction came true.
Yeah, I'm just really liking Heidenheim, to be honest with you. I just think the way they played this season has been really good. Aside from that first opening defeat against Wolfsburg, where they were a little bit flat, I think the three performances since then have been top draw in from an attacking perspective. And I think there's so much to look forward to from that side. I think I'm with Rune as well at Bester. I'm a massive fan, really. I'm already sold on him. Yeah, I just think he looks really good. Like, he just looks like a quality player that could... obviously he got ridiculous stats in the Zweite Bundesliga last year. I think he got like 12 goals and 14 assists, which is just ridiculous numbers, really. And he's already showed that he can make the step up for me. I think he's looked good in every match apart from that opening fixture. You know, he was very good against Hoffenheim despite missing that penalty in that game. He ended up getting the goal of the week that week too from that brilliant free kick, and he was superb again today in this match. You know, with a great assist for the third goal, which was massive, by the way, because at that point, if Heidenheim didn't get the immediate reply, I think Werder probably would have gone on to win the game, but they didn't let them settle to that 2-2. They got a really good third goal and then won comfortably in the end, really, and deservedly, in my opinion. Dinkchi, you know, he seems to be really enjoying himself as well. He really does. He made a great post-match interview saying that he's really enjoying playing for the club, and they look a side that are good enough to stay up, to me. I really do think so. You know, we mentioned before that a few quite weak-looking teams in that bottom 4 or 5 this season. I don't think Heidenheim are one of them. Yeah, I just think they look a decent side. Obviously, the game management needs to improve, similar to Darmstadt. You know, you can't keep blowing 2-0 leads because eventually teams are going to punish you. But I think that will come, and eventually they might even go on to be, you know, 13th, 14th kind of place this season. I think obviously defensively there are a few worries. You know, Muller, despite the good penalty save, he doesn't seem to make that many saves in general, to be honest. I think Meinke, the captain and the centre half, you know, he was one of the best defenders in the Zweite Liga last year. He's yet to really make the step up, I would say. He looks a little bit slow at the back, and teams can get in behind him quite well. As for Werder, that was my analysis too. I was going to say similar to what Peter said. I just don't think it was Werder's strongest 11 on the pitch in this game. Obviously, he went for 2 strikers, Komnatski and Voltemade. And I didn't think either of them looked particularly good, to be honest. I'm not sure that either of them are really Bundesliga standard. I think when they get, you know, as Peter mentioned, when they get Dutch alongside Boré, I think we could have a decent strike force. And I agree, Deman as well. I think Peter's been talking him up quite a bit. He got a beautiful assist off the bench as well for the 2-2. He's going to be a good player. I think, you know, once you get Bittencourt like back on form too, he's going to be an asset too. I just don't think it was a great starting 11 from the away side in this game, which probably didn't help them. It was, you know, probably 4 or 5 players from the very strongest they can be. But yeah, I think that early season I was a bit worried about them, but I think there's enough goals and enough quality in that side for a kind of lower mid-table finish for them. I don't think they'll get relegated this season, but you know, this was a treat. It was a Sunday afternoon treat, really enjoyable game, and 2 teams that are definitely going to score goals this season. But the big question for them is, can they keep them out at the other end?
Yeah, very much so. We'll move on because time is pressing, and we'll move on to our first game of the weekend. Just because I think we all know where the headlines mostly are sitting. Obviously, with this game, certainly on Friday night, they were Bayern to Leverkusen. Late penalty prevents the Bayern party, as Leon Goretzka thought that he had started the party late on after a fantastic assist by Mathys Tel, super sub Mathys Tel, really showing his influence and importance already in this Bayern side. The young man, you know, really good in the 1v1 situations, taking on players, and obviously had set up Goretzka what looked like a 2-1 victory. Kind of playing this in reverse order, but it's kind of where all the drama came, I suppose. And the penalty that came for Leverkusen. Quick round the tables, chaps. Do we think it's a penalty, yes or no? I'm going with yes. I think he was clumsy.
Yeah, I would say soft, but yes, I would say. But I think Leverkusen definitely deserved the point from the game, but that's beside the point, I guess.
Yeah, I would say soft. You can whistle it, but it was soft. The same thing happened on Saturday night with Frankfurt Bochum too. That was the big talking point. But I'll side with the refs on both cases and say, okay, it's good enough. Yeah.
You'd be disappointed if it was your team, but it's one of those. Obviously, Hoffman was very clear to draw attention to the fact that he had been felled, wasn't he? So yeah, it was VAR'd and stuck away very in good composure by Palacios. But I think, you know, obviously 1-1 for a great proportion of the game, chaps. Bayern being put ahead early doors by Harry Kane, just lurking where he knows to lurk at the back post from a corner, nicely headed in for 1-0. And then we were treated, weren't we, to what was a absolute worldie of a free kick from Grimaldo, looking like a serious addition to Leverkusen's ranks. I mean, put it where you want with a pen or a pencil and, just scribble it down. It's pretty much where the ball ended up. A delightful strike to make it 1-1. I think we'll come to Bayern in a minute because, what we've seen from them so far this season is enough to have got them over the line in most of their games, or in all of their games, apart from on Friday. But I have to say for both teams, the general quality of play was so high. Some of Leverkusen's passing football to get out of the press, whatever it might have been. The one thing, ironically, that let Leverkusen down for me was their chance taken, their shot conversion. Boniface was, so strong, so physical, so quick, getting shots and efforts off. Great to watch. If he had had his shooting boots on, Leverkusen could have had another 2-3 goals onto that. Obviously, we have to give credit to the goalkeepers as well. I have been one to voice my concerns about Leverkusen's goalkeeping situation in Radetzky. He had a really good game. Some serious saves. That one from Harry Kane in the second half was unreal. So, credit to both keepers. Made some really big interceptions at big times. And I don't suppose there's any need to overanalyze this, Mark, but just the fact to say that it was very enjoyable and it was two top teams going at it.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'll find a better game than this all weekend in Europe, to be honest. I thought it was a real high-quality game, especially from Leverkusen, in my opinion, but also Bayern deserve credit, too, for certain things that they did in the game. But I actually watched it with my dad, who was over here in Germany, and he was amazingly impressed with Leverkusen, too. He said, wow, they look a serious team. Like, my dad doesn't really watch that much international football, but he was really impressed with them. He said they looked to me, and as Rory said, like the way they played out the press and just the quality of skill and speed and just everything in that team. It just looks an amazing team. That there's not one even average player in there, really. I mean, the one you probably say is maybe Andrich, obviously, who was taken off at halftime for the brilliant Palacios. Obviously, Palacios, probably jet lag was the reason why he didn't start the game, which we talked about a little bit before the fact this match was on a Friday evening as well, when it probably should have been on the Saturday or Sunday. But that's beside the point. I just think that, both sides deserve a lot of credit, but Leverkusen, they really do look like title winners, to me. To be honest, when Hoffman first joined, I wondered whether he could fit into the side, but I just think he's been brilliant, really. I've always loved Jonas Hoffman. I've always been a big fan of him, but I thought he was a one-club man, to be honest. I thought, he fitted in so well to that Gladbach team, but he was amazing in the game too. I mean, Wirtz is just we already know he's an amazing player, but as you say, Boniface didn't have his shooting boots on, but he just looks like the all-round striker to me, like the pace, the power, the quality. Like, he didn't even have really a good game in this match, but he was still good, really. You know what I mean? Like, what he gives to that team, he brings other players in. Like Xhaka, I mean, can you say any more about Granit Xhaka? Like, amazing signing for them. The balance, the axis in that midfield, especially when Palacios plays, for me. You can see there's a clear difference when Andrich went off, and that midfield was really firing in the second half. And I just think this is a title-winning potential team, and the squad isn't that deep, I wouldn't say, although it is relatively deep. I'm interested to see Teller come on as well, because obviously he was at Burnley last season, Nathan Teller. I actually saw him live when they played Wigan, actually, last season, and he looks a player too. I'm interested to see if he can tear it up in the Bundesliga. And wow, Leverkusen, I was just so happy they got a point at the end, because to me, I think a draw was a fair result, but I think Leverkusen edged it, even though the XG said that Bayern actually had more chances. But probably the only criticism you could give Leverkusen is that they do a few stupid errors at the back still. That's probably the only... It's not like a massive criticism, because they have, under Xabi Alonso, that's become less and less, but there was still a couple where they gave the ball away in really bad positions in the second half, and that's probably why the XG ended up quite high for Bayern in the end. But I just thought that both teams were good, but for me, Leverkusen were just amazing, really, the way they play football.
Yeah. Who was it, Tapsoba or Kosny? Who
was
gave
tapped
away
over. He made a great recovery tackle in the end, I think, but it was still, it would have been a really poor goal. And I even think the Kane goal, to be honest, you don't want to be, it was a bit of a soft goal to concede in truth. Although the winner for Bayern was a beautiful goal, like Matthias Tell, I say the winner, sorry, what looked like it was the winner at the time. Like Matthias Tell, who's been brilliant since getting that abuse in the Super Cup. He was superb. And Goretzka, probably with his biggest moment in over a year for Bayern, seemingly giving them the win, but Leverkusen showing the bottle as well to get the point.
So Goretzka, who was still on the pitch, however, his midfield partner Joshua Kimmich was not, Peter, and there was much debate about that substitution during the match, and obviously you saw Kimmich flying onto the pitch to celebrate with Goretzka at the 2-1 point, but can we read much into that? I'm sure Thomas Tuchel had his reasonings, but I'm sure on the other side, the player wasn't also best pleased.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of talk about that going on in German footballing circles. I would say that the initial deployment of Konrad Laimer as a right back in this fixture was extraordinarily successful. He was an absolute beast. And he was also very, very important when he moved into midfield. There is an interview in today's Kicker in which Michael Ballack claims that Kimmich is only world-class as a right back, as if we don't have enough problems to deal with in German footballing circles. But, the story of Kimmich, he's always had this chip on his shoulder. He didn't like being compared to Philipp Lahm. He didn't like being a right back who moved into midfield. He wants to shift and evolve and grow in his career. And a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this Kimmich-Goretzka partnership and how both players want to evolve and grow into different players. And that's why they don't play so well together anymore. But they still are best friends, as you mentioned. So Tuchel has some very, very careful ego managing to do now with Kim. I mean, the good news is, of course, as Mark mentioned, that Goretzka did score his first Bundesliga goal since November of 2022. So it's almost been a year for him. Although Tell really deserves all of the credit for doing that. And Kosanu's marking on that one was particularly weak as well. Well, I could go off on several tangents here. I mean, I know that we're pressed for time. It was a fabulous football match. I, too, watched it with my father. What I told him to do was keep an eye on Granit Xhaka and tell me you're not impressed with the way that he runs the midfield. And he took a look, and he was just like, wow, that is the best player. He's probably – I mean, look – I will not. The Bundesliga is the best league in the world, but when I look at somebody like Granit Xhaka, I'm like, he's too good for this league. I mean, he's just too good for this league. he really is, and I mean, that's something that could definitely bring Leverkusen the title, and it is a ridiculously deep squad. I mean, they've got Tella, they've got Stanisic at right back if they need him, and they have. I held up the Elf-Freunde a couple of weeks ago that said that, Germans consider Xabi to be the best trainer in the league. Balam is asking, what is his cooking exactly? You might want to throw that up there so we can answer at least one question. He is tactically, I mean, it is so intricate to watch how Leverkusen play. He will shift formations 3-4 times in a match. It's actually, I mean, that's Spanish football for you. I mean, what's the secret of tiki-taka? It's making sure that, you have a flexible back three, back four that switches on and off the ball. And perhaps, maybe one of these days, if people are interested, I'll draw it up on the board and do like an individual thing of how Xabi's Leverkusen's tactics work. So that's something it would take me a very, very long time to explain. It's incredibly intricate how he has these guys. I mean, it's wow. He is, if Tuchel can't hack it at Bayern, Xabi's going to take that job and he's going to take the title with Bayern. I think he wins the title one way or the other this season.
There's whispers already. There are whispers already, aren't there? Well, there's more than whispers. There's outright statements basically saying that Xabi Alonso will manage Bayern as and when they see fit. basically. But less of that. We'll come to that as and when. Great game, very entertaining. Right, I'll just fly through best of the rest, and then we'll finish off with a bit of Peter's Kiosk Club. Best of the rest. Obviously, RB Leipzig go marching on, strong at home, expected, very good, solid 3-0 victory. Xavi Simons just turning into the baller that we all thought he would be. Excellent performance from him. I was kind of tossing up in my head when he first signed, he and Fabio Carvalho from Liverpool, who would maybe be the star, but it's quite clear, isn't it? Moving on, obviously an excellent home win for Wolfsburg over Union, who was starting to stutter somewhat. Jonas Wind getting on the goal scoring sheet again, another very cool and calm finish from him, enabling his side to another victory. So really important win for them, and less so for Union on their travels. Speaking of travels, VfB Stuttgart, unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to duck out before we get to Peter's Kiosk Club and headlines, because I dare say what some of them might be referring to a certain Seru Girassi hat-trick, spectacular, player, 8 goals, 4 games. I can see that the Bundesliga English website have now done a feature on him. Who is Seru Girassi? I was kind of alluding to quite cheekily on X or Twitter, saying that basically I think we all know who he is already. It's just that he's now come to the attention of maybe more casual viewers, but being an interesting read for a casual viewer, the striker who has come in and been spectacular for Stuttgart, getting them over the line, a 3-1 win against oh my god, who do they play? Completely lost track of who we were playing. Yes,
really lost track of themselves, so don't feel.
Yes, they have. They are very much stalling at the wrong end of the pitch. The very much dream start for Stuttgart goes on. There was obviously a 1-1 draw played out between Bochum and Frankfurt. Frankfurt seemingly specialists in the draw so far this season. Obviously, still not able to really kickstart their season under Top Muller. Obviously still kind of feeling the reverberations of losing Kolo Muani and Lindstrom as well from a goal scoring point of view. And we also saw a very impressive 3-1 away win for Hoffenheim. Kramaric amongst the goal scorers against Köln, who I did tip to win at the weekend. I think most of my tips were actually wrong on Thursday night. I think apart from easily getting Leipzig to beat Augsburg, I think I got 3 out of 4 wrong. That is very quick fly through of obviously the rest of the games. Love to cover them in more detail if we had time, but yeah, some really big results. Hoffenheim, Wolfsburg starting strongly now. Stuttgart still hiding inside that top 4, amazing stuff, and Leipzig positioned perfectly for a title run as well. And so on that note, I'll have to duck out at this stage, chaps, or else I will miss my 5-a-side football match. So I'll make sure I win because I'm leaving the show. And gladly hand over to you, Peter, to finish up the show with a bit of Kiosk Club. So please do enjoy, and I hope Seru Girassi features. I'll be checking out that the section when I come back to it and watch it a little bit later on.
Okay. Well, yes, I did save that for you, Rory, specifically for you as well. I thought we might begin with the Bild am Samstag. The headline was Schiri pfeift Bayern die Spitze weg. So basically, the Schiedsrichter, the referee, has he whistled Bayern first place in the table away. Bayern, of course, are not first place in the table, courtesy of the Leverkusen draw. That's what they went with. When it came time for the Bild am Sonntag, we have Alter, wie geil, which loosely translates to, here we have Mats Hummels and Marco Reus. Nice job, old fogies. That's they're, of course, that as well. I saved Stuttgart. I saved this one for Rory. This is Seru Girassi. Erst fast weg, jetzt voll da. he almost left Stuttgart, of course, this offseason, as we all know. And now he's here. So erst fast weg, he was almost gone, but now he's really here. Important to note that Serhou Guirassy is actually on pace. He's ahead of Robert Lewandowski in all of his goal-scoring seasons.
Wow.
Already with 8 tallies through 4 rounds. Not even Lewandowski could manage that. The kicker today led with Michael Ballack. There's a big interview here. It's Ballack's Thesen. I mentioned what he said about Joshua Kimmich. He also endorsed Louis van Gaal to be the next Bundestrainer. That would be the first non-German Bundestrainer that we've ever had here in the Bundesrepublik, but that's how desperate times are getting. And I wanted to say that the new copy of Elf Freunde has come out, and Robin Gosens made the cover. I wish he was mocked up like Robin Hood when he was there. Mark, I wish you were here too, because you know what I would be doing? I would be giving you the Sonderhefte. I got them both. I got Kicker, I got Sportbild to get everybody ready for the Champions League. Just sending a big warm thoughts to football fans out there everywhere as we prepare to get set for what should be an excellent Champions League campaign. I'll be rooting for the German sides. But it's the European competitions in which we really get to meet interesting people from other countries. So we'll be watching as many of those as we can.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that Union Berlin will kick off their Champions League campaign this week. It's just incredible. I can't believe I'm saying it, really, but it's such an amazing thing, isn't it? It's so good luck to all 4 Bundesliga teams competing in the Champions League. Obviously, Europa League teams as well in there as well, and also obviously Conference League. So yeah, big weekend for German teams. Obviously this year is actually even bigger as well for the teams, because the 2 best performing confederations, so to speak, will actually get an extra place in the Champions League this season. I don't know if you were aware of that, Peter, but say England and Germany get the most points this year, there'll actually be 5 places available in the Champions League in either of those leagues. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, it's going to be tough for the Bundesliga to overtake England and Spain, but I think it's possible this year. I do believe it's possible. Maybe a repeat of Frankfurt winning something, and, who knows what's going to happen this season. So, yeah, it's all to come this midweek. And obviously, we've got a lot more for you as well. We've got the prediction show on Thursday night. We've got the fantasy football on Friday. So it's all coming here on Over the Bar Bundesliga Show. But yeah, if you enjoyed what you saw today, then check out our Twitter page at Over the Bar FB and at Over the Bar Extra, and keep liking and commenting and subscribing, of course. Yeah, we're on to 1,030, I should say, not quite 1,300 yet. But yeah, we are moving nicely. It was only seemed a few days ago that we reached 1,000, and we're already on to 1,030. So yeah, keep helping us, guys. Keep advertising us to your friends, and we'll keep bringing you hopefully enjoyable content. So yeah, see you again on Thursday, guys. Ciao, ciao.